Welcome back to another week of Limbus Company, patch note analysis, and new identity overview. This week we've got two new identities being added, those being CINQ South Section 4 Otis and CINQ South Section 4 Director Sinclair, alongside a lot of patch notes regarding the main focus of this week's update, Mirror Dungeon 3 Hard. Let's get straight into it, shall we? Starting of course with the 2-star, CINQ Otis.
아무래도 다수의 적을 상대하는 건 저희의 전투 방식과는 거리가 멀긴 합니다. 하지만 그들이 좁은 골목에서 줄지어 온다면 얼마든지 조용해 줄 수 있습니다. 방금의 결투를 그림으로 그려냈다면 분명 이것은 걸작이었을 것입니다.
CINQ Otis, similarly to the previous CINQ identity we had, that being CINQ Dawn, is focused on haste, although more specifically in this situation it's haste and poise. So far this season has had a pretty big focus on poise, so it makes a lot of sense. But there's also another thing about this Otis in particular that's trying to use a mechanic that really has been underused so far, that being she seems to be trying to be a dodge tank. Now the only dodge tank we have in the game so far is Mariachi Sinclair, who is not the best at it due to his very staggeringly bad speed values, and also the fact he's trying to be too many things at once. Now, of course, this unit's trying to be haste, poise, and dodge at the same time, so CINQ Otis may fall into the same issues, but I think it may succeed where that failed. Let's get started by looking at her skills. Starting with her skill 1, March. It's a 2-coin Pride Pierce skill. On use, gain haste next turn, and this skill slot gains aggro next turn. On hit with both the first two attacks, gains poise count. Only poise count. So the skill 1, it's haste, it's aggro, it's poise count. What more can you expect? This is something that benefits all three different sides of CINQ Otis, so it's just really good for setting stuff up. Being able to gain a good amount of poise count from a skill 1 is also really good. That is a big issue with some poise units, is the fact that they cannot build up poise count decently enough, and the new poise units seem to be doing a pretty good job of trying to get around that. Now the skill 2, Punition, 2-coin Pierce Gloom skill. If the unit's speed is higher than the target's, gain a little bit of coin power, gain poise count on use, gain aggro on this skill slot next use, and then the first coin is poise potency, and the second coin inflicts bind next turn. A little bit more speed control with this kind of one with the bind and being able to gain poise potency. This is going to be like the most common way you gain poise potency on this, somewhat. It'll work well. And just coin power, it's speed. But then the skill 3, Balestra Fente, is a single coin Lust Pierce skill. It's been a little bit since we've gotten a single coin skill 3. I'm trying to remember when the last one was, and it's definitely been a while. Yeah, I genuinely can't even tell you like when the last one we got was. Was it Slosh Mail? It genuinely might have been Slosh Mail for all I know. We have not been getting a lot of single coin stuff. But this one gains final power at certain rounds of poise, and on Clash Win, gain poise equal to the number of clashes. Another very solid way to gain poise potency. On hit, if like Declare Duel Otis. Now, Declare Duel is the status effect that was inflicted by CINQ Dawn, and it's the exact same here. The only difference is they seem to be specifying Declare Duel Otis, and they're probably going to like change it so Dawn's is also specific to Dawn. This way, each of the CINQ identities is going to have their own declared duel. And now, a single target cannot have multiple declared duels. If, say, Dawn declared duels against an enemy, and then Otis does it as well, it'll overwrite Dawn's and it'll just only be Otis's. I don't know exactly how this works for abnormalities. I don't know, assumably each abnormality part will be able to be dueled on its own, but it's hard to say because, well, this is the first time we have multiple declared duel inflictors. We'll have to see in testing. And also gives haste next turn to 2 slowest allies. So if you're going for a full speed build, it can just mean a little more haste. If you're running a small team too, this could also mean that it just straight up gives haste to Otis next turn. Say you're trying to solo with her or something, which might work well. And of course, on crit, deal more damage. Now looking at her evasion, this is like kind of like her main focus here. Her evasion or passive kind of focuses on, well, her whole tanky idea. She doesn't seem like she's going to be a unit that's going to have a lot of HP, but she's going to be a unit that's good at clashing and good at evading. Now, Retrade is her evasion skill. It's a Pride one. If this unit's speed is higher than the target's, gain coin power for every speed difference. So this is coin power, so you're still going to need to get heads, so definitely need to make sure you get her sanity up if you're trying to solo with her before this happens. But you get the heads, if you have a very high speed value, you might be able to roll super high on this. We'll have to see how much. And on evade, gain poise potency. If you, say, use your skill 1 in combination with this, you can gain a bunch of poise count, gain a bunch of poise potency. And because this one gains poise potency without spending it since it's an evade, it can be a good way of building it up without spending any of it. And then the passive adds on to the evasion even more. Redirect. On evade, gain haste next turn and lower this unit's stagger threshold. This seems like it'll probably be an identity that only has a single stagger threshold, and so being able to just gain more haste from evasion, being able to reduce your chance of being staggered from evasion so that if you do fail evasions, you gain even more. You've got more HP until you get staggered. That's just pretty big overall. Stagger threshold control is probably going to become a little more popular now that there's no mirror dungeon bonus that just removes stagger thresholds entirely, as it kind of like harmed some units such as Mariachi Sinclair and Encore Merso's gameplay simply because their entire stagger threshold reduction thing didn't matter to them anymore since they only had a single stagger threshold to begin with. And the support passive, Mentor's Council, is following a pretty similar thing to Dawn's passive, CINQ Dawn's passive, that being, if the fastest ally's speed is higher than the speed of all allies, the fastest ally gains clash power. It's just the fastest ally instead of the entire team in this situation, but it's another case of just, if you're higher than the speed of the highest speed enemy, you gain clash power on the fastest ally. And if said ally is a CINQ Association fixture, they deal even more pierce damage. Once again, nice little buff. Overall, I'm very glad we're getting another, evasion-focused unit. Mariachi Sinclair is one of my favorite identities in the game, even though he's atrociously bad. But an identity that can kind of take that basic idea and turn it into something a little bit more useful, alongside seeming to have some pretty good damage output, especially if you get a crit on that skill 3. Yeah, it just kind of seems like it'll fall together perfectly, but we'll have to see once we see the actual values in-game. Now, let's move on to this 3-star. CINQ South Section 4, Director, Sinclair.
죄송해요. 너무 과했나? 그러니까 팔을 이렇게 해서 급소가 전부 꿰뚫렸네. 이미 돌은 아직 못 자라. 여러분들, 왜 그렇게 뒷걸음질을 하시는 건가요?
CINQ Sinclair is more similar to CINQ Dawn in this situation, being, someone who seems great at clashing, great at dealing damage, and of course, great at being fast. Now, skill 1, Remise, 2-coin Pierce Gluttony skill. If the unit's speed is higher than the target's by X or more, gain coin power. Now you'll notice, every single one of these skills gains coin power based on the speed. For the skill 1, it's only a single, it only triggers a single time, but for the skill 2 and skill 3, it's for every speed difference you gain even more coin power. So there's a lot of potential for just dealing a lot of damage with high speed. The skill 1 on use gain poise count, and both coins gain haste next turn. It'll assume be only 1 haste, maybe 2 per hit for this one, but that's also just really insane for just being able to gain a bunch of haste from your skill 1, so we'll have to see. However, this is the only haste gain of the actual skills. The skill 2, Engagement, 3-coin Pride Pierce skill. Unit speed is higher than targets, gain coin power for every speed difference, as I mentioned before. Clash Wind, gain poise count with the first coin, and gain poise count with the second coin. A lot of poise count on here, that's for sure. This is a guaranteed at least 3 poise count, assuming each of these is just a single one. Although there's a decent chance at least one of them is going to be a 2. Now, it is a 3-coin skill, of course, so if you have a lot of poise potency in the process, it will spend a fair bit of it. So we'll have to see. But then the skill 3, Contra-Attack, which is counter-attack, it's a 3-coin Lust Pierce skill. Speed difference gains coin power once again. Clash Wind, consume poise count. Gain poise equal to poise count consumed. You could definitely argue that this means that his poise count is a charge substitute, but it's very different because you turn some of that poise count into poise potency. This is your main way of gaining poise potency from your skill 3. Against targets with declared dual Sinclair, gain poise equal to poise count consumed times Y instead. It'll probably be like something like consume maybe like 5, maybe 10 poise count, maybe all of it, who knows. Anyways, it just kind of means that you're just going to get one good crit off potentially if it's a high amount of poise count consumed, but if it's something like 5, then you've got some chance of critting without it being great. So, Clash Win, if this unit conducted a single combat with the target slot attack skill, inflict fragile on hit. The fragile on hit, so it applies this turn, but this is a fast unit, so fragile on hit works pretty well. So, single combat, this was kind of a new term. It's not really a stat effect by any means. Established when the target slot is targeted by this unit and no other unit. Established only when they clash. So, of course, you need to be clashing against them. They need to be using an offensive skill to be able to, like, clash properly, assumably. And you need no one else to be targeting this one. This means single combat, it'll be a little hard to trigger sometimes in, say, normal combats. But in focused encounters, you can just have Sinclair just clash a single coin. It's not based on part of, like, abnormality stuff, it's based on the skill slot. So as long as you just are only targeting that skill slot with Sinclair and it's clashing, you're triggering a single combat, which means you're inflicting fragile, which for a very fast unit means that basically all your other people will be doing more damage to that part. Now, of course, they need to be attacking a different skill slot in order to actually gain it, otherwise it wouldn't be a single combat, so the fragile is a little hard to say. But it is Clash Win fragile, so if nothing else, Sinclair will be able to benefit from it. First coin inflicts Declared Duel, and the third coin, if you manage to get the critical hit here, which may be a little hard seeing how you spend a lot of poise count to gain some poise potency. We'll have to see. It just deals even more damage. Very interesting unit, that's for sure. This skill 3, there's a lot going on in this skill 3. It is a very complicated one, that's for sure. I see what they're going with it. We'll have to see how well this works, because it definitely seems like it'll be a little hard outside of Mirror Dungeons to keep his poise reasonable. Moving on to his evasion, defensive. It's just a single coin Gluttony Evade, nothing special there, no special effects. Passive, Slumbering Bloodlust. Gain max speed next turn for every poise count, so think similar to how Rhino Murso gains max speed for his charge. And Combat Smart, if speed of all allies is higher than the speed of all enemies, gain pierce damage up. This is the one that's very similar to Dawn's passive, just being a benefit to being a pierce damage benefit if your entire team's speed is high. This will synergize really well with something like Crow's Eye View, of course, because, well, everyone will gain a big heap of haste then. And just running a haste team in general, it means you'll be able to get a good pierce damage up. On the support passive, Too Slow. Fastest ally on evade gains haste next turn. This seems kind of tailor-made to be a little bit of a support passive to help, like, trying to say solo with, the Otis here. Since she's the one who gains, a lot of benefits from evading, so being able to gain even more benefits from dodging, gaining more haste from that. Assumably that's the main purpose of the support passive. But yeah, very interesting unit. This is the first time Sinclair's gotten a 3-star since Grip Sinclair, so it's been a while. This is the first time Otis is getting a 2-star since the game launched too, so they're definitely hitting a couple targets. They're hitting a couple slots that really haven't been filled in a long while. So that's good. And these seem like cool stuff. I'm glad to see more CINQ stuff. I do hope we see some more of the associations we haven't seen yet, especially Trey's association, given how I'm particularly a big fan of, like, workshop stuff. But yeah, this is pretty cool. Now let's move on to the actual patch notes, starting with the one focusing on Mirror Dungeon 3 Hard. So, with this update, they're adding Mirror Dungeon 3 Hard to the game. Requirements are you to clear Canto 4 and clearing Mirror Dungeon 3 normal, so you don't have to have completed Canto 5 for this one. You just need to make sure you get up to Canto 4, clear the Mirror Dungeon 3 normal, and you can play Mirror Dungeon 3 Hard to earn a large amount of Battle Pass experience, recommended Identity Level 4, Identity Thread Spinning, and Uptide Tier 3+, all starter buffs. And of course, important note here, weekly bonus not being reset on this update. Don't use your weekly bonus before the actual update drops this week, because then it's not getting refilled. You'll just basically gain less resources. Just wait on it. Just don't do any Mirror Dungeon 3 stuff in that time period between the weekly reset and the update actually coming out this week, for your own benefit. Battle Pass XP can be gained in great quantities in Mirror Dungeon 3. Specifically, it's the exact same amount as rewards as Mirror Dungeon 2 Hard. So of course you'll gain 225 Battle Pass experience if you consume the entire like bonus here, your weekly hard and all 3 of your weekly normal clears bonuses. And if it's deactivated, you just gain 3 Battle Pass experience. So once again, similar to Mirror Dungeon 2 hard, you gain a lot of it if you have the bonuses active, and if you don't have the bonuses active, it's the exact same effect as clearing Mirror Dungeon 3 normal. However, there actually is a reason to do Mirror Dungeon 3 hard here, even when you've run out of all the bonuses. That being that you gain even more cost. We'll have to see, or not even more cost, even more Starlight. We'll have to see just how beneficial this ends up being, because depending on how much longer Mirror Dungeon 3 hard is over Mirror Dungeon 3 normal, it may still be faster to spam normals. But keep in mind that there is definitely still a potential benefit for doing Mirror Dungeon 3 hards even without the bonus. And of course, it's based on the amount of floors cleared instead of the amount of nodes you complete. So if you forfeit, say, on the final fight of the final floor in Mirror Dungeon 3 hard, you'll gain the same benefits if you forfeit at the very start of the final floor. So a couple different elements are introduced to Mirror Dungeon 3 with Mirror Dungeon 3 hard. Levels upon entry in Mirror Dungeon 3 hard, it uses your own identity's levels instead of boosting it all to 40. Of course, Mirror Dungeon 3 normal is still going to be the same, but this way, it'll be a lot beneficial. You'll get a lot of benefit from having all your identities upgraded to a decent degree here. Unpredictable future, there's Fog of War, you can only see the node in front of you, and of course shops and rest stops have fixed locations in Mirror Dungeon 3 hard, and Floor 5 added. So that means there's a total of 5 floors in Mirror Dungeon 3 hard. Mirror Dungeon 3 normal, of course, is going to stay at 4 floors, but this means Mirror Dungeon 3 hard is going to be a little notably longer. Previous story bosses and Refraction Road bosses will appear as Floor 5 bosses, and 2-wave encounters will appear in pre-boss fight encounters. This makes a lot of sense. There were a couple of Eagle gifts that specified to start of wave as opposed to start of combat, namely the Broken Compass and the Nebulizer at certain levels. So it definitely did kind of seem like they were going to introduce some multi-wave stuff with this update. Enemy floor buffs are different in Mirror Dungeon 3 hard. In hard difficulty, enemy floor buffs will be different from the ones found in normal difficulty. There's a combination of level up buffs and power up buffs. Some of these, some of the mounting trials are a little harder to deal with than other ones, therefore they will give, more enemy levels up in the process. They are paired with stronger Eagle gifts normally, and it'll give you a second Eagle gift if you choose the one with the highest possible enemy level up. So the example shown here, a little hard to see because it's a low resolution, but the leftmost one, reduce damage taken by 10%, a single level. Middle one, defense power up by 2, and that's a level up of 2. And defense level up on the third one, defense level up, and just a single actual level up. So the middle one's the hardest one to deal with here, so it'll give you a second Ego gift if you choose the one. So you'll get the cigarette holder and one other random Ego gift. So it definitely could be beneficial if you think you can handle the buffs, the debuffs at that point. Just to gain another Eco gift. Even if it's something you don't want, you can always sell it. And then additional Mirror Dungeon content, starter buffs added. Now there is a lot going on here. I'm gonna take my cursor for this and just go over all this because this is what the actual starter buffs are gonna look like now. This is a little bit threatening, that's for sure, or I guess a little bit imposing because of how many nodes there are. So these are secondary buffs. So it says when you activate primary buffs, it deactivates the link's secondary buffs as well. I think this is a mistype. I think it means when you deactivate primary buffs, deactivates the link's secondary buffs as well, because you can now activate / deactivate your buffs. So these secondary buffs are assumedly going to be similar buffs off of the one that they're originating from that do various things, assumably similar. Now, there are 3 new primary buffs, these ones here. This one's a hard icon, it's probably something regarding HP, this one seems to be sanity related, and this third one, I don't know for sure, it could be stagger threshold related, it could be other buff related. Assumably, these end up being similar to Mirror Dungeon 2 Starlight rewards, like maybe this will be a max HP up, maybe this will be like healing it on certain points. This one may be some sanity healing every floor, every fight, something like that. And then this one, I still can't quite tell what the symbol is. Yeah, no, it's not coming to me. But it's got a lot of stuff to it, so we'll see. A couple notable things here. So, new Yu-Gifts added. So this is the one that adds 3 new ego gifts in the Starlight tree, and you notice there's 7 secondary buffs tied to this. Now each of these is for one status effects. It'll be burn, bleed, tremor, rupture, sinking, poise, and charge. And each of them adds 2 new ego gifts, one of them being a relatively normal ego gift you can find in the dungeons now. For example, Dust to Dust is the burn one. So you'll be able to get Dust to Dust, which was a previous ego gift that's been locked behind this one. Similar situation with the Standard Duty Battery for Rupture, the Midwinter Nightmare for Sinking, and the Nixie Divergence for Tremor. On top of that, however, each of these it's 2 ego gifts, so one of them is a normal one, and the second one is a special one, potentially a tier 5 or something at that rate, that can only be gotten from a certain fusion combination, and it'll be a super strong buff for that specific status effect with that ego gift. I don't know what these are yet. You don't know what these are yet. It has been data mined, so if you really want to find out, you can find it in certain places. I don't know what they do yet. I'd personally think it's better to not know, but to each their own, of course. Some other things of note, is the fact that the Wish of Stars. So once you've fully completed everything, even if you haven't fully completed anything, you can actually spend Starlight beyond that point as for one-time benefits. For 100 Starlight, you can gain a starting ego gift choice of +1, so you get to choose 3 ego gifts instead of 2. For 250 Starlight, you gain 250 starting cost, and for 500 Starlight, you receive a random tier 4 ego gift whenever you actually start a run. So this way, Starlight, instead of being capped after a certain point, you can just keep on building it up, and you can use it to gain some pretty good benefits in certain runs, which is pretty cool overall. Starlight seems to be a little more impactful here, that's for sure, a lot more impactful. Just being able to receive a random tier 4 is a pretty cool effect, that's for sure. But that's not all the information we've given on Mirror Dungeon 3 Hard. A lot of cool stuff. The Starlight tree, it'll definitely be very worthwhile to grind up a lot of Starlight for this, that's for sure. Moving on to the normal patch notes themselves. Update contents, the new units, Mirror Dungeon 3 Hard added, the usual stuff. Major changes. With this update, they're actually finally making it so Sunshower Yisung is becoming a VOV. Now, this means make sure that you have it brought to Threadspin 4 if you want to save a couple of resources on it. It'll definitely be worth it, even if not now, having the benefits. Because it also gains some coin power up on Threadspin 4, I'm fairly certain, on top of gaining a little bit of a attack weight. So, just worth considering before it happens. Mirror Dungeon storage and use less RAM, how nice. Bunch of random bug fixes, improve certain parts of the final battle of Kanto 5, fix some stuff about Ting Tang Hong Lu. Apparently he was having a bunch of issues last week. Something very notable here is the fact that standard extraction end period is labeled to KST, so they're setting it so that Korean Standard Time is going to be the one used for every time zone now, which is a little strange. I guess it simplifies things a little bit, but having stuff in people's own time zones kind of makes more sense usually, but fair enough. Add the keyword label to Tremor Burst. That's nice, so you can actually learn what Tremor Burst does a little bit easier now. They made it so that if you try doing the Hell's Chicken dungeon, you can get VOV stuff by default instead of having to wait till you upgrade your units. I don't know how many people frequently run the Hell's Chicken dungeon nowadays, so don't know how big of a deal that is. And yeah, just a bunch of just random things overall. Known issues aren't anything too noteworthy. Mirror Dungeon choice result buff relief does not activate. Oh well. And of course, our 300 lunacy, as always. Hopefully they're not going to have to do as many patches this time. They won't need to do as many lunacy rewards, but I mean, if they do need to do a lot of patches, it is more lunacy, so that's a nice thing. But yeah, that is all the patch notes overall. These identities look super cool. Mirror Dungeon 3 Hard looks super cool. And of course, I will be streaming Mirror Dungeon 3 Hard as soon as it releases this Wednesday. So feel free to join me for that. But otherwise, that'll be all for this time. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!